I got a couple questions before we get into it, but who here is from Texas or lives in Texas? Yeah, let's go, baby. I love it. So this is actually like my first real time being in Texas, and it was funny. I came in on Saturday. Me and a couple buddies were hanging out yesterday, and I feel like there's two things that really sums up Texas. So the first thing is I was driving past a gas station, right? And I look, and there's like all these people. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? Is this like an arcade? Like, what, is this a club? Like, what's happening? And then there's like 500 gas pumps. I'm like, this is a miracle, right? Buc-ee's, baby. And so I walk in there, and dude, I get in there, it's like these aromas, there's all these, amazing things. I'm like, dude, you could do anything from there. You could buy a plane ticket, you could get food, you could do whatever you want at Buc-ee's. So I was like, that's the coolest thing, right? Because everyone talks about everything's big in Texas. So that was awesome. Now, the second thing was, my buddy calls me, and he's like, hey, dude, we're going to go on a helicopter today. We're going to grab some guns. We're going to go shoot some pigs. I was like, whoa, like, no, we're not, dude. I was like, you're joking. He's like, no, seriously, there's a serious problem, right? And I was like, what do you mean? And he describes all the pigs. I'm like, okay, like, let's do it. Right? And so we did it, and long story short, I was like, well, welcome to Texas, right? So, no, but I wanted to say I'm super excited that every one of you guys made it here safely. I'm super blessed just to be in this position. So what I'm gonna go through is essentially just like my journey and kind of what I've learned along the way. But I'm 23 now, and I got started when I was 20, right? And I think most of us, when you're 20, you're kind of trying to figure out like, what's your goal in life? Like, you feel a little lost, you're in college, and I was in the same boat. So I was going to school in Colorado, and I was working valet, and my whole intention was, I knew that I always wanted to serve and give back to people, because that's like one of the biggest blessings that we have in life, is helping others. But the hardest thing for me was, how do you help others and still make a lot of money, right? Because that's a massive factor, and a lot of people want to maybe say money's not it's not going to make you super happy, but it's going to change a lot of things for you. And so I was in hospitality. I was not making any money at all. And next thing you know, I dropped out of school. And to make a long story short, to get into the journey was, I was just praying one day, and I was like, look, God, you got to help a brother out. I need something like on a billboard sign that says, Wylie Hawkins, do this, And next thing you know, I get a call from Jordan Valdez, who's Zach Twardowski's admin, and she's like, hey, we got your resume, da-da-da-da-da. Do you need a job? And I'm like, yeah, I'm broke. Like, let's do this, And so I got started in the insurance industry, and it changed everything, because it's such a blessing that we get to go out there day in and day out and just go serve people. And then the amount of money that we make is just phenomenal for helping people that ask for it. So, one sec, I'm super hot and I feel like I'm getting red, so give me 1 second. It is hot in here. For real, come on, Rob. We're in Texas, baby. But here was the thing. So you guys obviously see me up on stage, but I want you guys to remember that I was in this spot wondering, what the heck am I going to do with myself? Thank you, bro. And for my first 2 weeks, I was driving, I was calling leads, and I was just trying to help somebody. I was trying to make a sale, and that's what I was so focused on. But I was overcomplicating the process, right? And what I realized, and what I want you guys to write down, is there is 3 simple things to the business, okay? 3 things that are going to make you successful. Number 1 is your lead flow. We'll go into detail there. Number 2 is booking appointments. Because if you don't sit down with people, if you don't have any appointments, how are you supposed to see them, right? And then number 3 is the actual in-home presentation, okay? So a lot of people try to make things overcomplicated because they want to give themselves an excuse as to why it doesn't work. But this business comes down to those 3 things. So I'll give you a quick example, and if anybody, who's recruiting, who has a team in here? Okay, awesome. So here's the thing. So let's say an agent calls you, right? And they go, hey, I'm really struggling. I need some help. Here's how you can diagnose yourself and not only the agents you work with. So let's say somebody's like, hey, I ran 12 appointments this week and I only closed 3. You're like, okay. And he's like, I'm not happy with the type of money that I'm making. You're like, well, think about it. You closed, what, 33%? That's pretty solid, as a new rep. But your real problem is you don't have enough leads to book enough appointments, right? You're doing fine on the phones. You just don't give yourself a fair shot to go out there and win. And I know it takes, a lot of pressure to go out there and invest in yourself. But this very first step is putting the pressure on, buying the leads, because everyone's a diamond in the room, and how do diamonds get made? You got to apply some pressure on yourself, right? So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is going to be the phones, right? And the phones would be the biggest thing that I would harp on, because it's probably like the most salesy is the word that I'm looking for, but that's where you have to be the most sharp, in my opinion, because you have to be ready to handle a ton of objections. You have to understand your tone. You have to understand your pace, your cadence, how you carry yourself. Are you assumptive? Are you in control, right? And so that's the biggest thing on the phones. Now, once it gets to the house, I think the message that I would really want to get across is think about what the client had to walk through to actually sit down and be with you. They had to, one, list all of their information online, like they're telling you where they live, how much they make, their name, date of birth. Like, that's a really scary thing. Like, who would do that here in this room is fill one of these forms out? Nobody, right? No one would do it. So they're already so vulnerable. And then the second thing that we have to understand is they have a random person call them and say, hey, can I come over at 5 or 6, 6:30? All right? And dude, think about it. If they're willing to do that, you just have to understand the position that you're in, that they want your help. They just don't want to be misguided, right? They just don't want to be lied to or manipulated. So if you can just come with a heart of service rather than I'm the salesperson, etc., then they're going to understand that. They're going to open up. They're going to spill everything out that you need to hear, like, hey, here's my problem. This is what I need solved. You go, perfect. I'm going to see if I can do my best doing that. I'm going to do anything and everything I can for you today. Think about perfect. Done, right? And so those would be the three biggest things. Now, that once I figured that out, I started running at this thing really, really hard. And I started making, a lot of money. I started building a team, and I was like, this is amazing. But what I didn't realize is I was 20, and I thought I could never burn out, right? I thought I could always just keep going, like nobody could ever keep up with me. I was a 20-year-old kid. I was making tons of money. And about 18 months in, I remember I just hit this wall. It was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, man, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to dial the phone. I don't want to do this, right? And so I had to rekindle my fire. But what I'm getting at here is it's really important to figure out that what your pace is, because this career will change your life forever as long as you're willing to keep going at it. So you got to figure out what your pace is. And so there's two stories that I want to share. The first one is about that subject on pace. So there's two commanders in this military, and they're trying to get to a certain position, right? So Commander A, he brings his troops. He's like, hey, today we're going to march 40 miles, right? Okay. Second day it snows. He's like, all right, it's snowing. We're only going to do 20 today, right? Third day it continues to snow. And he's like, hey, we've already marched, 60 miles. We're good. Let's just take some rest. We won't march at all, right? So that's the first commander. The second commander, Commander B, he goes, okay, first day, let's do 20. Second day, it snows. Let's do 20. Third day, keep snowing. Got it. Let's do 20, right? Because it doesn't matter the circumstances. He already committed to 20, miles or whatever it was every single day. And so that would be the question that I would ask every one of you. What can you commit to every single day, no matter the circumstance, right? And you don't have to work 12 hours every single day, but if you're willing to do 6 hours, 6 days a week, every single week, that's going to pay dividends, and that's what's important. So that's the thing about consistency. Now, the second thing is, you guys know in Spain, like the matadors and the bulls and all that fun stuff? I would love to do that. I mean, so, like running with the bulls. But there was this story that I was reading in this book, and before they put the bulls in the arena, this is how they test them. So they make the bulls run at the matador. I hope I'm saying that right. and they like poke it with this stick, and it obviously like hurts the bull. But then they're seeing which bull can continue running at the objective without caring about the pain. And the most valuable lesson there is, going back, I'll ask a question first. So what do you feel like is the biggest reason why people are successful? Like, what's the number one trait, do you think? Just throw something out there. Look, no one's going to judge you. Lack of clarity, discipline. What else? Give me a third. Persistency. Consistency. Okay. Persistency. I love it. I'm trying to hear it all, you know? But anyways, yeah, it's persistency, consistency, right? Because it's the person that's willing to go through the most, you know, BS, that's what's going to take you the furthest, right? Is how much pain can you handle? Because we're all going through the exact same struggles in life. And there's nothing different than me, the person to your left, the person to your right. It's just like, what are you able to handle and continue to go through, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing. And remember, like, we're all in the battle together, right? Lean on each other. Let's lock arms. You know, let's make it happen. You know, I've gone through stuff that, you know, you might be experiencing next week. Call me, right? Be like, hey, dude, this is how I got through it. That's really important. So that's that. The next thing, you know, so what? We're at 18 months of my journey, and, you know, I'm getting in a position of leadership, really starting to build a team, kind of figuring it out. And this is for all the people managing and looking to build something. And my biggest struggle there was just, I would hire everybody, right? Like, I'd be talking to the guy outside of 7-Eleven. He'd be like, hey, dude, you want to buy this shirt, man? I'm like, yeah, like, you got a job? He's like, no. I'm like, dude, all right, bro, come on, I'm going to fill this thing out. Look, dude, I got 6 agents, you know? And that didn't work out. So I was pretty much, obviously, but I was pretty much hiring everybody in the world. And I was asking Zach, I was like, dude, why isn't this working? Like, I have 100 people in the pipeline. I got 2 guys. Like, what's going on? Like, dude, you're not hiring the right people. Like, well, where are the right people? And so that's the question, right? Is, one, what are the traits of the person that you're looking for? Because when you're recruiting, one of the most important things to remember is, who is your target audience? What traits do the top producers carry that you're looking for, right? Persistency, consistency. They're accountable to their own actions, you know? They're not gonna blame others. And so the question really is, when you hire people, ask yourself, what are the 3 to 5 traits that are non-negotiable in your life, right? Like, if I was about to get married, there'd be 5 things that I would need in a woman that I would not marry unless she had those, right? If you gotta take it just as serious when you hire somebody. You cannot just give this opportunity to everybody, because they will fail if it's not the right person, right? And then it puts more stress on you than you need. So, you know, you can figure out what your traits are. I'm gonna get a sip of water. One sec, sorry. I just need some water. So cool. My mom would be so proud. I gotta call her. That'd be awesome. But yeah. No, I couldn't. I'd start crying. That is crazy. That is crazy. Dang, I just got like hit with the wave of emotions. You bring up your mom, it's like, oh. Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, so going back to, you know, your target audience, that's super important, super important. And then here's the second thing. So, and this is very tactical, like this is about to get really technical, and this is what's been working for us, is when you hire somebody, how many people go through one interview with somebody and just say, hey, you're in, right? You're gonna be, you know, my guy, you're gonna be my agent, right? Think about that. There's not a company out there that ever does one interview. They usually go through this interview, you talk to this next manager, this person, and then you're hired, because it's a process. You have to get through the process. Like, think about the concept of the Navy SEALs. People that are, you know, obviously crazy want to be Navy SEALs, not because it's the coolest job in the world, because it's such an elite class, right? And if you can make joining your agency such an elite class, like, you have to be not amazing special person, but you have to be within the elite to actually work here. It's gonna make them do anything that we give in front of them. You know, any challenges, like, I'm willing to go through that, right? So how do you actually get there? So there's two concepts I want to get across, and I got a couple more minutes. But first thing is, why do agents never get through the pipeline? Or why do they not succeed? What do you guys think? Lack of clarity? Lack of confidence. So I personally believe it's self-belief, belief in themselves. Because what's your name, boss? Wendell. Okay. So if I'm like, hey, Wendell, I got $1 million right here in a bag. You see it, you 100% believe it's there, right? And I go, hey, boss, on December 31st, I'm going to give you all this money. If you wake up at 5 every day, you can't drink, and you have to work out every day for the next, 20, whatever, how many days we have left, right? Would you do that? Of course, right? Because he believes the money's there. He believes that I'm going to give him the money. And of course, I definitely would. But the concept is, it's like, look, sell them on the dream, sell them on the vacation, make sure that they believe in themselves, because when they have to study for 7 days, when they have to go through contracting, when they have to dial the leads and they say no, they're willing to go through all the negative because they're so sold on what it can do for them. And so the question is, how do you get there? How do you sell them on that, right? So there's 3 steps to this that we're doing within our agency. First step, first conversation is sharing all the good news. FFL, leads, comp, bonuses, renewals, etc., right? You share all of the good news, everything. You get them excited. You share your journey, your story, other people. That's conversation 1. Conversation number 2 is you have to validate the system through somebody else, because they might just think I'm some crazy talented kid that I can, just sell anybody and everything. But then when you get them on the phone with somebody that's in a similar walk as to them and they're having success as well, they're like, oh man, it's not just Wylie having success, it's Mahmood, it's this guy, it's that guy, right? And they're like, okay, then I can do that. It raises their belief. Then the third call is setting proper expectations. Because if you do not set proper expectations in life, they will not succeed. Because here's an expectation. I live in Denver. Every single day I'm expecting traffic at 7:30. Every day. And I'm not mad about it because I expect it. Does that make sense? So think about it. If they expect to be told no 60 times in a day and they understand it's coming, how could they be mad? Right? They know what they're getting into. So set proper expectations. Now, the last thing is holding people accountable to small, simple tasks. Because, once you start really building a team, it's like, who do you work with and who do you not? And I think the biggest thing is if you give somebody a simple task, like, hey, watch this video, take a couple, notes and have 3 questions ready. I'm going to call you tomorrow at 10. See, 1, if they answer the phone at 10 o'clock, if they can even time manage themselves. The second thing, do they have the 3 questions ready? Because if they can't answer the phone at 10 when you scheduled it, get 3 questions ready, how in the world would you ever expect them to run their own business, to be accountable to themselves, when they can't even be accountable to me, and their self is way more important than me, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So that's what I got for you guys today. But yeah, thanks for hanging in there with me. Appreciate all you guys. Yep.